Hello, my astrology family. This is Lada from astrolada.com. This is the most important and exciting month of the year, not just personally, but for the world, because the two planets, the two probably most intense planets, Saturn and Pluto, are changing signs in March. So there will be big world important events that you'll notice around March, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. But on a personal level, this will be a game changer. Many new beginnings in your life. Old problems will disappear and new exciting territories and problems will appear. Let's see what it's going to be like. I'll speak about each of the 12 signs. You'll come back to this video for many years, at least for the next 3 years, because I'll speak about how Saturn will influence you for the next 3 years and Pluto for the next 20 years. So please save this video to favorites because you will need it. When things start happening, this will explain to you and give you perspective, so you don't feel overwhelmed, or so you feel like, wow, I'm on time, like a deja vu. This is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. So this is an important video. And before I start, please do start with your ascendant. If you know your time of birth, start with your rising sign, also known as ascendant. If you don't know it, start with your sun sign and moon sign if you can, but the ascendant is the most important, I think, if your time of birth is correct. And then I'll follow if you're day born, the sun. Check the 3 if you want, but always for me the ascendant is it. And by the way, before we start, just to let you know, I'm doing a big webinar on Pluto in Aquarius. That will be at the end of February, the start of March. It's only $39. It will be 5 hours, and I'll walk you through how Pluto will affect you personally, because Pluto will be in Aquarius for the next 20 years, and I'll show you how, and you'll be able to see what areas Pluto will influence. Say Pluto will square your Mars, natal Mars, in 2036. What does it mean? Or Pluto will enter your second house and it will transit the second house cusp in 2025. What does it mean for you? Or Pluto will trine your Venus. What does it mean for your life, for your love life, and which year? So that will be a very personal webinar, but because I'll show you how you can calculate it and see it very easy, but at the same time very insightful for you to plan, because Pluto is the planet of the evolution of the soul. And if all the most important changes on a spiritual and material level always happen through Pluto. So let's enjoy the videos. Cancer, March 2023. Cancer rising, Cancer sun, or Cancer moon. Especially rising is very important. So the first very important development in March, which will actually influence you for the next 3 years, is Saturn moving into your 9th house. For the last 3 years, Saturn has been into your 8th house, which is considered quite a difficult position, by the way. One of the hardest positions of transit of Saturn, especially emotionally, psychologically, and you're concluding it, thanks God. You feel like a big kind of emotional, psychological burden falling off your shoulders starting from March onwards. And if you want to see how you coped with the lessons of Saturn in your 8th house, then listen to the next sign. Listen to Leo, because I will speak how Saturn will influence them for the next 3 years, but you listen to it and you think like it's already has happened to me. And how did I learn those lessons? How did I cope? Wow, I survived that, and so on. But Saturn in moving into your 9th house from March, and it's going to be making a trine aspect to your sign, which is very auspicious, which means that all the lessons of Saturn, you'd incorporate them with more organically, with more ease, rather than with some difficult lessons, you know. And Saturn making a trine to your sign for the next 2-3 years means that whatever you initiate and start in your life will be more long lasting, will have more stabilizing influence in your life, will have a more organizing, but also kind of, we can push you into seniority of some sort, but it will be stable and it will bring long-lasting results. But let's see specifically what does it mean to have Saturn into your ninth house for the next 2-3 years. What do you have to learn in that period? A lot of the difficulties of Saturn in the 8th house will fall off, but now, especially some kind of, if you had some financial difficulties, because 8th house is financial, some psychological, emotional, intimacy blockages, they would fall off, and trust issues as well. But when Saturn moves into the 9th house, a new set of challenges and a new set of lessons will appear, and a new set of maturation experiences. And one of the most important things that Saturn likes to do when it's in the 9th house is to restructure your belief systems. And you start questioning, what do I trust? What do I believe? Are my belief systems realistic? Sometimes it's kind of like a rude awakening that maybe your belief systems are a bit too romantic, too rosy, and you have to grow up. And I remember when Saturn was transiting my 9th house, my then boyfriend and later husband, I met him then, and he was telling me that because I had this very much law of attraction, I believe that if it's something right for me, it will come to me. I don't have to make the efforts. And he, over 2-3 years, really reprogrammed me by example, by almost like a mentor to me. And he was telling me that how you really have to make the efforts there. You know, it's your belief systems are wrong, basically. And I really questioned my belief systems, and that's when I started working more hard and applying myself and started seeing results as well. Another level is that some kind of an authority, but the older figure or more experienced or more mature personality can enter your life in the role of a mentor, in the role of a teacher. But you might feel like a hard taskmaster, hard teacher, rather than the one that tickles you with feather and says everything will be great, you're doing great. No, it will be a teacher with a ruler that tells you, you have better potential, you have to try better. But it will be someone that believes in you and who will be pushing you towards your better potential. They will not necessarily be like an authority figure on you that is demanding those things from you. It's more in the form of a teacher, you know, and it's not necessarily some guru will appear. As I said, it happened in my life as a partner, but also this is when I met one of my most important astrology teachers as well, who showed me how hard he was working. He was very consistent with helping me and giving me, because it's a shrine to you, so there will be support to you from elderly, more experienced, more successful people as well. And you have to, it's a good idea to listen to the lessons that they have for you, even if you don't agree initially, because you can learn a lot from them. So mentors, teachers. Another thing is that I had, when this happened to me, a bit of an existential crisis of my belief systems, and I started questioning astrology, for example, something that you've believed, and I was like, I had a crisis. Is astrology true? Is it correct? I was like tearing my hair off. For me, it's such things are very important. For other people, might not be, but it's kind of your question: is this what I've always believed true or not? And I then discovered more ancient type of astrology, Vedic astrology. I'm telling you my story, but it will apply in your life in a very different way, in different circumstances, but similar meaning. And you can go back to some old kind of beliefs. You can start researching more ancient knowledge, for example, or something more traditional. Some of you might go back to traditional university. Some of you that are more mature might decide to enter a path of a student or higher education, or to pre-qualify. You might even start questioning, is that the right direction for me in career? Okay, if I want to do something else, actually I have new future goals, so I need to pre-qualify and I need to study something. Or some of the more younger ones might be starting on the path of university degree or apprenticeship, or some sort, some knowledge where you have to systemize knowledge and learn new things and organize your higher mind as well and your belief systems. But that's a very much of a self house. The houses, it's like the first, the fifth, and the ninth houses are houses of yourself and self-growth. And the ninth house in particular is very much house about you becoming very serious about self-improvement to yourself, through higher knowledge, through not just information, but through more moral principles. You might become your own most stricter teacher, your own most stricter moral authority voice. You might have to deal with some ethical and moral dilemmas as well about what is right and wrong, what should and should not be done, what is good, what is evil, and to define a bit more your belief system, because since 2012, Neptune has been transiting. I don't have it now here, but Neptune has been transiting your ninth house of beliefs. And Neptune can make your beliefs a bit like a hodgepodge of everything, because Neptune is very allowing, non-discriminatory planet, very all-embracing. So you kind of attract all kinds of beliefs, and especially ones that are maybe spiritual beliefs indeed, but ones that are maybe not defined well enough, maybe that are just theory, or that they're just some kind of or even illusory ones. And Neptune, Saturn comes and says, I need to put structure there, and all those beliefs that I have, all those ideals for myself that I have, for the ideal self that I want to do, this is the ninth house, I need to apply them practically rather than just know about those things. And you become serious about doing that. You become serious about becoming morally perfected. And if you know someone who is Cancer, if it's yourself, who has been more lax morally, has been more wishy-washy with their belief systems, because Neptune can do that, or more undefined, or more kind of, Saturn will change that. Saturn will structure them. Saturn will expose the lies in your belief system. Saturn will make you organize yourself and your strive for self-improvement, and in your strive for attainment of higher knowledge and higher perspective. But again, it can be a little bit of a downer as well, emotionally, psychologically, kind of, in a sense, because it's this, as I said, some kind of a not psychological, but existential crisis can happen, because you doubt your beliefs. Is this right? Is this not right? I've always believed this. Wow, it's like your bubble is burst, in a sense. For most spiritual people, this will make them to be more aligned to their spiritual path, more dedicated to it, with some practical results. For others, it might even mean that they leave behind their idealism and become more practical, in a sense. But also sometimes, because this is the axis of the mind, it can make you feel a little bit more negative and a little bit more down on yourself at moments with your thinking processes, because this is the lower mind, the ninth house is the higher mind. Saturn looks and aspects the third house for you. Sorry, the third house for you Cancers. So you have to be aware if at moments your internal narrative is a bit too negative. But it's only so because Saturn wants you to become more realistic about what is possible in life, and more organized about getting it. And on a material level as well, it can indicate a period where there is more limited travel just for pleasure, travel far away, which is nine houses, international, whatever. But focus more on, if you travel, it might be more connected to work, for example, because Saturn rules work and responsibilities. For some of you, it might be a period of trying to legalize something. Nine houses, legal documents, or visas, or papers, or that you'll be working hard on. And it might be a slow process. It might take the next 2 years, the next 2.5 years, to get like some citizenship or some visa, or legalize something, whatever. For others, it might be exploring, studying very in depth. Like I said, it can be a period of deep research and study of some sort. And for another, it might be that they are wow, I lost my train of thought there. Sorry about that. I hope it can come to me. So it is foreign places, and but it's more like something responsible there. For others, it might be taking on some responsibility to teach others, to bring knowledge of some sort. I started doing for the first time when my ninth house from my sun was activated. For the first time, I started teaching. For the first time, I started doing webinars, seminars, and so on. So that's another way it can play out in a very positive way, of course. Also, businesses connected to ninth house can, if you're in any such ninth house career, for the next 3 years, that can be very intense period, the period where it's make or break, or where you're given some very, where you put yourself some very important long-term goals that you go through gradually. And ninth house careers are if you're advisor, if you're a guide, if you're a mentor, if you're a teacher of some sort, if you're in academics of some sort, there will be some big work you have to do, some big new important task that will go slowly, but it will have long-lasting results. Or if you are in tourism of some sort, in ninth house is also to do with foreigners, so import export, that can be a very important period of a lot more work and more focus, for example, for you. And if you're in any such careers, you can achieve some peak as well, some recognition, some seniority in such positions. All right, but there's a lot more external things that can happen. I speak more in depth about that in my video in my video for 2023 for Cancer, which is 2.5-3 hours long. If you want to hear way more in depth than here, because I don't want to make this video too long. The other big event that is happening for you, Cancer, is that Pluto is leaving your 7th house. It's for the past 14 years, Pluto has been exactly opposite Cancer. And early born Cancers maybe felt the really life crisis transforming energies of Pluto from the beginning, from 2008, in the first 5 years after that. Later, middle born Cancers, maybe in the middle of those years, and later born Cancers, they're still, in the last 5 years, they've been feeling Pluto really changing them, especially through relationships, and having, let's say, it might not have been easy, having a lot of power struggles with others, life transforming relationships, and so on. But the pressure will be removed from your relationships when Pluto moves into your and kind of toxic relationships will start to fall off, and so on. And karmic binds to such obsessive relationships and so on that might have locked you in a certain situation will start falling off gradually when Pluto enters your 8th house. But Pluto will come back again to your 7th house in June. So just for 2 months, you get to experience a bit what the themes of the next 20 years with Pluto in your 8th house will be, while it will come back again in June till the end of the year and then fully leave in 2024. But you'll be like relieved that Pluto is no longer fully destroying and rebuilding your relationships and so on. And sometimes people even become more distrustful to others, but maybe even there was someone who empowered you with Pluto in the 7th house and changed your life. But when Pluto enters into the 8th, what's going to happen? That's the natural house of Pluto. This is where Pluto feels in its own waters. And the 8th house is the house of big psychological transformations, actually a very fast changes to who you are on a very deep internal level. This is the house of psychologists and so on, and alchemical processes. And so if it's almost like you're going to start changing without Pluto will speed up those processes. And I know it's 20 years old and 20 years long, this transit. You'll be like, what will I look like if I keep transforming all the time for 20 years? But you become empowered to do constant transformations. And you're not afraid of those constant transformations when Pluto is in the 8th house. And sometimes there can be a lot of intense experiences with Pluto in the 8th house, but that's exactly what you have to learn. Life and death experiences. On a positive level, for example, it can mean pregnancies. And even if you're late into your age and Pluto enters your house, and you might find yourself having to deal with new life, with pregnancies. Sometimes, I mean, someone will die in the next 20 years for sure. I mean, Gemini had, if you know anyone with Gemini rising, they had Pluto in the 8th house for the last 14 years. I'll go and ask them. But I knew a few Geminis that had some like deaths around them that were quite impactful. Maybe not always the very close people, but it really hit them very hard, and it made a huge transformation in them. But this is also a topic you might have to deal with, but you meet such topics in a very, you are very supplied with the necessary tools, so to speak, to deal with that. Because Pluto in the 8th house there, it makes you like a emotional warrior, like an emotional superhero. And you can confront anything scary or difficult. But the most important thing is that when Pluto is in this 8th house, it can really make a huge evolution psychologically for you. It can help you work for many years, because the 8th house is the astral body, working on clearing the astral body. Actually, one of the first things for purification and initiation into higher consciousness is to put the student in ancient mystery schools for 10 to 15 years. I would say it would be almost like a Pluto cycle through one sign, 10 to 15 years in to do special exercises and have special experiences that purify the astral body, purifications from desires. And this purification, and especially from egoistic desires. It's okay to have desires, but especially the egoistic ones that entrap us in addictions, in obsessions, in power struggles, and all such things. And Pluto might intensify initially such things, such power struggles with others, or more like internal power struggles. This is your own inner demons you're fighting. And those power struggles can intensify, or these compulsions and obsessions and desires can intensify. Even it can intensify the sexual desire very strongly and the sexual compulsions, but only so because when it kind of intensifies very strongly, it can be all the, like when something speeds up or temperature rises, you see how all the dross, as they call it, comes from the bottom, rises to the top, and then is able to evaporate, so you can clear up the dross. So you'll be in a 20-year process of psychological clearing. So the high initiate, they were artificially placed in such environment and such exercises in the ancient times that would purify the astral body. The same thing, you'll be doing it subconsciously almost through the events in your life. Everything that's happening, all the other transits in the next 20 years, they serve Pluto, because Pluto is the last planet. Pluto rules the evolution of the soul, the most important thing that you have to do. So Pluto is showing the most important thing you have to do for the next 20 years. And everything else that's happening in your life, new jobs, getting married, getting divorced, moving around, whatever it is. The other planets keep moving, external events are happening, but they would all be filtered through the lens of Pluto in the 8th house, which is purification of the desires, purification of the desire body, of the astral body. And for some of you, it can indicate, actually, Cancers, that you might become high initiates. Like you'd go through an initiation in the next 20 years. Some of you might even awaken the Kundalini. The 8th house is the house of the Kundalini. It doesn't have to happen through sexual exercises. It can happen naturally by you having purified your desires and desire nature. Sometimes it can happen that you purify it because the desire nature intensifies so much that it's so painful to keep wanting and having those desires and those attachments, or some grieving process, that you break away from those addictions, obsessions, desires, or toxic people and toxic behaviors that were compulsive and that were ruling you till now, and you break through from it and you feel liberated. Because another meaning of the 8th house is liberation, but it's spiritual liberation, moksha, spiritual liberation. This is where your work, your access, into the higher worlds, because you purify the astral body, then you are allowed to have glimpses and into the astral worlds. So for some of you, it can mean that you enter some more evolved souls of you, or more spiritually inclined, might have astral trips and so on. Others can become extremely intuitive, like an X-ray. Just think like some kind of scorpionic energy is born with you. You'll be able to look at people, and like a psychologist or like a detective, you can see their motivations. No one can bullshit you and lie to you. This entails some power struggles again as well, because when you're able to suss out the internal motivations of others and call out on their bullshit, depends if you call out on them or no, but it can create some confrontation. And because you're like, I don't want this toxic energy, I want to keep my astral body, my my internal world clean, you know. But again, it's all for good. Plus, you know, this purification, it's going to people that are involved with any career that's connected to psychology, astrology, transformation of others. They can have a very powerful and successful career in this direction if you're a Cancer in the next 20 years, because this is where you can transform society. Pluto is in Aquarius. In the next 20 years, Cancers, some and a lot of Cancers, publicly on a more personal level, will play the role of a psychology of others, will play the role of transformation on the and help through dark times from others, and helping them go through some cataclysms or personal life crisis, because you'd have the strength to lead them through the darkness. So going in such careers can be powerful. Just exploring such topics can take off the pressure from all of those internal transformations that are happening. And sometimes when Pluto transits the 8th house, a person might have like kind of a ineffable feeling at the background of their mind that some cataclysmic event will happen, that something catastrophic can happen. It's not always correct, but they might even suss out when something truly catastrophic might happen, and more dangerous. That's kind of the less savory part of it. It's like, who wants to know when bad things will happen, you know? But it's kind of like a forewarning, or what's that called? This kind of extra sense that it gives you. On another more material level, it can give deep intimacy with another, exploring the issues of intimacy. And 8th house is another relationship house, but it's more on the, not only on the sexual house, but how much do you trust others? How much do you open yourself to others? You might be entitled to carry a lot of secrets for the next 20 years. I don't know why, but you might be put in such situation like a psychologist or astrologer or so on. Plus, or you might be dealing with some secret information for many years ahead. Or you might be just very passionate and dedicated. I have Pluto in the 8th house, Placidus, so I know what it means to have Pluto in the 8th house, constant transformations. My life feels like every 5 years I'm someone else, like this identity constantly gets transformed by Pluto in the 8th house. So you have this 20-year period where there's a lot of constant transformations. You'd become someone totally new, and it might not be just one transformation, it's quite a few from them, and they happen not necessarily slowly, they happen fast actually. So a lot of changes in your life internally, which affects your life externally as well. But also you can be you might, as a remedy, you might get interested to study astrology, for example. You might get interested to get into the occult, into psychology, to investigate such more forbidden or taboo topics, even to get more into what they call conspiracy theories, to understand more about the evil side of life. There is evilness, and you boldly go there and explore it for 20 years, and maybe make society aware of those things, make society aware about touchy topics like abuse, like racism and so on, things, and abuse of power of any sort. But you'd have this magical touch that will be crystallized in you over the next 20 years, of a healer, of a shaman, of a transformator, and you can impact people on a large scale, because Aquarius is large community, society, about such topics, taboo, hidden, forbidden, spiritual, even purification, and so on. On another level, the 8th house rules other people's finances and resources. Some of you might have a mission, and the soul grows a lot through getting involved in some kind of stock market, some kind of hedge fund, some kind of other people's finances and resources. Pluto can make you a millionaire in the 8th house sometimes, you know, if it's your karma, when it's gonna come when Pluto is in your 8th house sometime in the next 20 years. Pluto can make you have powerful influence over others, because very psychological house, very psychological planet, and what you use it for, whether you abuse your power or manipulate others, it's up to you. Everything, though, to tell you, everything will have a consequence sooner or later. A lot of people in great power, like tycoons and or people of power over others, tend to have Pluto in the 8th house or strong Scorpio or something like that. So you might be given such power and you have to use it to transform and help others. Just warning you, you can use it for selfish reasons, but the consequences always are very severe this or next life. But now timelines have sped up, usually within the same life. And also, if you've done some abuse of power yourself, Pluto will, because Pluto always brings out the dirty things on the surface, and the 8th house is the house of power dynamics. So if you've done some unsavory, exploitatory things towards others, you might become very aware of that, and hopefully you can, let's say, reform yourself. But if you can't, they can be like a very scandal, or that you get exposed and those secrets get exposed. So be accountable, guys. But again, at the same time, it's very empowering emotionally, psychologically, gives you incredible power. You come out of this transito. You don't necessarily have to wait 20 years. Once Pluto is already in your 8th house, you keep feeling how it's a period in your life where you're taking your power back, especially from things that have control over you, that you feel like almost like there is obsession over you, and you're purifying those desires. Okay, wow, I'm gonna stop talking here. There's a lot more things materially, just like sometimes it's your partner's finances with Pluto in Aquarius that can make a huge, a huge change, big ups and downs and transformations. But I'll speak more about that in my Pluto in Aquarius webinar that I'll do the end of February or the start of March. Check out below, and it's only $39, and it looks not only at Pluto through houses, but Pluto transits through other planets, and when exactly it will happen for you personally. So come and join us. All right, so but then just to speak quickly about the month specifically, Cancers, Mars is gonna come out finally of the 12th house. It's been there for 6-7 months, and maybe there was some hidden battle you were leading. I have a friend who is Cancer, who there was a big challenge and big temptation that happened for her, but she was able to win the battle. It was almost like an astral thing that was happening with her, and she's coming out of this now. So good to hear for you Cancers that if there was something especially subconsciously tumultuous, you come back, or your subconscious was restless, it will start coming down towards the end of the month when Mars moves into your sign. And out of your 12th house, if you had problems with your sleep, they'll disappear when Mars moves away from your 12th house. If you had some problems in faraway countries, foreign places, everything should just be ending around that time. Or if you had some secret or hidden enemies, or something secret that you were doing or preparing behind the scenes, or researching, now it comes to an end and you can go into action. If you've been researching something, you can start feeling more towards April already that you take action, that you become more empowered. You are more like in a period of for a few months with Mars in your 12th house, like in a cocoon, when you're preparing your actions, maybe you couldn't move forward, because Mars, the planet of action, in the 12th house of dissolution of action. So you might have felt more like your efforts might have been either useless or more without an impact. Well, now that will change, because now it was more time like questioning, going within, preparing. And when Mars enters your sign, the last 2-3 days of March and the whole April and big part of May, it's action time for you. Also, there is a big influence for you here, Cancer. Jupiter and Venus will join on the 1st of March in your 10th house, and the whole month almost, they both influence it. Very good time for career now. Very good time. Something that you do even already at the beginning of the month, but still the whole month is active. Might be great opportunity for you, something to start in your career, or you might get something in regards to some clarity or some inspiration. Where is the right place or direction for you to grow, to expand something. Something good can come to you from an authority figure, from an institution, or if you have your own business there as an idea. So that's something that you can benefit a lot from. And the sun is in your 9th house. Even though Saturn is just entering, there's still, the sun is more poignant this month, more powerful. Sun and Mercury can be a good time for education, higher knowledge, or travel of some sort, if you can do as well the whole March, pretty much. And teaching, learning, education, traveling. And then sun will move from there, and only Saturn will keep holding that energy that we talked at the beginning. So thank you so much, Cancers, and have a fascinating March.